guys, welcome back to my channel. This is so far going to be the last of my, I have already filmed 3 other interviews, and by this time this is my last, but this will probably come out before the other 2. And this is with Mintie Das, who is the author of Brown Girl Ghosted, which will be coming out March 24th. And today is, I'm releasing this on her book birthday for Brown Girl Ghosted. So please, I'm going to leave the links down below to buy the books. Please do so, but I hope you enjoy. In your own words, what is Brown Girl Ghosted about?
Okay. Well, this is the log line that I spent a long time coming up with, so I'm going to share it. And Brown Girl Ghosted is about Violet Chowdhury, a 16-year-old Indian American girl who is forced to fulfill her destiny as an Indian warrior queen while struggling to survive high school and live a normal teenage life in her small Midwestern town. There. And I feel like going like, ta-da!
Or like when the gymnasts, when they finish the flip, they go.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the log line, but yes, it's it draws heavily from my life as well. I wasn't. Well, maybe I was an Indian warrior queen. Maybe I am. I don't know, but but it draws heavily from my life. Like growing up as one of the only brown girls in a small Midwestern town, and so I wanted to introduce ideas about like race and identity, inclusivity, those kind of things. But I don't think those things always need to be so heavy. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of Shonda Rhimes, and I think you can do it with like fun, frothy, guilty pleasure kind of reads. So I wanted to bring the humor from like, for me, John Hughes movies, like a St. Elmo or The Breakfast Club or 16 Candles kind of feel, because regardless of what gender, what color, whatever you identify for or identify with, high school is awkward and it's heartbreaking and it's funny so I wanted to bring all of that aspect, but maybe like through a protagonist we haven't always gotten to hear from, a viewpoint that we don't always get, which is like I specifically wanted to make her a lot of the experiences or a lot of the things that I read with ethnic minorities, they're in urban areas where there's already a community there, maybe not just like of Indian Americans, but of, other people of color. Whereas like what I relate to a lot is the small town experience or like the small, suburbs kind of idea. I mean, it was a small town for me where you're hashtag only brown face in the place kind of feeling. So people don't just identify you as Indian American, they identify you with anything that they associate with the other. So that experience and kind of the humor of it, but also the pain, and I think both are very interrelated. So wanted to do that, but again, with the fun of like this very coming of age high school story, and then throw in a mystery, which I love, like a dad girl mystery, but also a mythology with the like Indian warrior queens and stuff. So they're saying it's like We Were Liars meets Riverdale. When I mean they, I mean like the marketing team and the publishing company. But I do like that. Like We Were Liars meets Riverdale,
I love Riverdale, so. Now, speaking of guilty pleasures, that is one.
Yeah.
So what was your book process like? So when you first started beginning writing it and then to publication?
Okay. Now this one's long. So I wanted to write Brown Girl when I was 19. I'm 44 now. So when I was 19, and I didn't have the courage to write it for many years. And so I started writing it when I was about 25, 26. And I finished it when I was 28, that version of it. And I started shopping it around. So this would be like, wow, that would be like 16 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I started shopping it around to different agents, and then even like some independent publishers and things like that. And I kept on being told, this was 16 years ago, and I kept on being told that because the protagonist was a person of color, it would be a niche publication and not mainstream. And that pissed me off.
Yeah, that seems anger me too.
That's the whole point of Brown Girl Ghosted, that she's American, you know? I mean, so so it was a really painful decision, but I put it away. I put it away because I'm like, I know the publishing landscape will change when the world changes a little bit. So I put it away. And then in the meantime, I had this amazing opportunity do you know the people who made Angry Birds? Well, or do you know Angry Birds?
Yeah.
Okay. So that company is here in Helsinki where I live. So I had moved to Helsinki by this time. And it's a company called Rovio. And I was brought in as a consultant for some other things. I noticed they had a publishing wing, and I just said, that's awesome because I'm a great writer, blah, blah. Really sold myself. And long story short, I ended up being able to co-create their first YA brand called Storm Sisters. Oh. And that whole experience was awesome because they had never done that before. I got to work with some of the best editors, and it was like a masterclass in writing. And then they put enormous trust into me. So they sent me to Frankfurt Book Festival, and then we got shortlisted for Berlin Film Festival. So I really got to see publishing up close, and that was a great experience because I learned a lot, and I became a better writer too. So after doing all of that, I had this like really amazing dinner where actually like J.K. Rowling's editor was next to me, and she and I were just talking, and I was telling her like, about my life growing up. And she's like, you should make this into a book. And I'm like, I think I have. And so that's when I decided it was time, and I dusted off Brown Girl. By that time, I realized like I needed to rewrite it, and I wanted to too. So I completely like revamped the idea, and then brought the boot aspect to it, and the IDEO and that kind of stuff. And so I rewrote that, and just I could already tell the world had changed and stuff, but it was really great because then Versify, which it's Kwame Alexander's imprint, and their whole idea is to just not change the wheel, but to bring more voices in the room. And they have had so much, and it's backed up by HMH, Mifflin Harcourt. So it's been this dream, and my editor there is like, she's been in the business for decades, and she's incredible. So it's just been an awesome experience of now, like, I feel giving Brown Girl Ghosted like the home that she deserves and things. So that's and then because this has been my dream, I had saved up and planned this tour for like 6 months to go out for like 76 days and do all these like, gigs, hustling Brown Girl. And so the dream continues. The plans have just changed,
Just move it. Like,
yeah.
Take it. And
yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, everything's like,
Yeah, but there's nothing you can do but just kind of like let go. You just surrender it and just kind of, it'll be what it's going to be. I mean, I'm really happy for people like you and all of these people who have really reached out to give authors whose tours have been canceled like mine, to give them platforms. So that's been awesome.
Yeah, and I think we need more of that. And I think also, especially because everyone's stuck at home, going virtually and doing all these things is the way to go, because not only will you reach more people, I think you reach a bigger audience online.
Yeah, you would. Exactly.
So you talked about that you kind of base the main character off of yourself. Were there any other things that inspired you to write this besides, like, your nanny or?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of inspiration. I mean, because I haven't seen the experience of like being a girl of color in a small town, like I said, that was probably the main motivation, because in my life I've gotten to meet a lot of girls guys, but a lot of people who have grown up in similar, and I find like the identity issues can be pretty severe, or like just the search and the journey and that kind of stuff. So I wanted to speak to that. So that was a huge inspiration. And like ghost stories, big time. I just love a good ghost story. And like I was saying, Shonda Rhimes always, because she's fantastic with her fun, frothy. I mean, and she says she really explores such deep issues like race and inclusivity, but she does it with such, like Olivia Pope. Who doesn't want to be Olivia Pope? Like Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder. I just love, she's a huge inspiration to me.
She's awesome.
And like movies and TV more than anything probably inspire me because I write every scene like it's a scene for the screen. Oh. I mean, I don't know if like, I think anyone after after the 1950s pretty much does see everything visually like a movie or a TV show kind of thing because, we're inundated with those kind of images and that kind of storytelling. So I definitely was inspired by like I said, John Hughes, Heathers. I love Heathers. It's the original Mean Girls. I also love Mean Girls, but what I wanted to do, yeah, I love that campy, dark, wicked fun of those kind of movies. But it was really important for me to take that past the caricature because the head mean girl, Naomi, that's what she starts off as. And I really wanted to kind of explore that and see what kind of like vulnerabilities and insecurities create, quote, the mean girl.
So this is kind of a fun question, but which character from your novel would you want to like talk to? Like go face to face and maybe go out to dinner or hang out with?
Okay, character from my novel. That's so, like, I think I was asked a similar question on a panel, and none of us could answer the question. Like, none of us writers could answer the question because I feel like that's what writing is. I've been talking to them that's what it is. I have been talking to them, so, but I would say probably just because my nanny died a couple of years ago. So I would love to like just have, I hear her laugh. She had this amazing, like high pitched, kind of hyena, but kind of, whatever, laugh. And so I would love to just hear that again, I guess.
I love that so much.
I wouldn't mind like talking to Violet and maybe just like shaking her a little bit and be like, girl, come on. You're a superhero.
So, what are 3 authors that inspire you?
Love that question. Thanks for asking that. I am Judy Blume. I love Judy Blume. I mean, so like I said, my mother died when I was 2, and I still have like girls or my sisters, I mean, my best friends are my sisters, and I have had this like lovely life where I have always, no matter what country we lived in or whatever, I have always been blessed with meeting some awesome girl who would become like a sister to me. And so I had that, but they're all pretty much my own age. And I was convinced that like every girl was like her mom was bestowing all these secrets about life to her that I would never get because I didn't have a mother. Right. And when I read Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, I felt like that was it. Like I had been given that. And so I will not even say that I did this, but I had tried to do that with Brown Girl for hopefully maybe another girl where it's like, hey man, I know this stuff is hard and I know the shame and the guilt that you're feeling, but this will go, I mean, this will pass. So Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, but just Judy Blume. I love her. Number 2, I love Gillian Flynn. I'm a huge Gillian Flynn fan, but I have to say for me, Sharp Objects, like that was the first one that I read and it blew me away. I mean, that was one of those, like, I always start my books too late. Like I start them at 10 at night. And so then I just read till 5 in the morning or whatever. I'm Asian, so I read super fast, but I'm, but so like I always, but yeah, I mean, like she's one of them. Okay, because now I'm thinking of all these. Okay, but and also okay, so three. So Jillian, but I love her setup, and I think she's a very visual storyteller too. So really love her stuff, and I just like I said, Gone Girl, of course, that's but Sharp Objects, I could feel that character, and I could just, and the movie was fantastic too, or the miniseries. And then my third is Laura Lipton. Yeah, Laura Lipton. I hope I'm saying that right. Anyway, she is David Simon and her. They're a couple, and I just my dream, like, because they're two of the greatest writers ever, and my dream would be that they would call me up and invite me for dinner. I mean, it's like they're like, wow. But I mean, she's an adult mystery writer, and oh my god! And now she's like just writing one book a year, and they are to die for. I mean, like her stuff, her characters, her plotting, everything is just so intelligent, and she draws you in, and she makes you feel it, and it's amazing because she can write. She writes mysteries, but she can write it from so many different perspectives, so many different characters. And she did this one, Sunburn, like 2 years ago, and it was kind of like film noir kind of thing, and it just it that's what it did. It Sunburn. It just I felt that heat, and then I felt the burn for so long after, Yeah, so those three.
All right, I like that one.
But there's a ton more. There's a ton more.
Yeah, obviously, like I can't even limit myself to three. So
yeah.
What genres do you like to read? Is it more mystery, like 100%, or?
Okay, so I used to like a lot of historical fiction, except then I found that it was becoming more fiction than historical. But that's always something that. But I love mystery thrillers, and I tend to go for like women who kill. I'm like I seem to always be reading something about a woman who's killing someone, kind of thing. And I really love that whole like it's twofold because I love that idea of like these mean crazy bitches or just like these women who these femme fatales. I love that. But on the other side, going with like the fact that like my Storm Sisters series, it's about 5 girl pirates in the 1780s. So I did a lot of research in, to that time of life. But with the historical fiction and just with the history, I love I think basically up to like 1980, the worst thing a woman could be was ambitious. And if a woman was ambitious, God help them, they were villainized. They were made into like witches, or then they were called witches, they were called poisoners. I mean, whatever it was. And so people like Catherine Medici, Catherine the Great, I mean, Anne Boleyn, I'm fascinated with these kind of character or these people and like this whole idea of like these smart, ambitious women and then how they get villainized. And so taking that idea into like modern day mysteries with these femme fatales.
I like historical fiction, but I can see the point. Like now, I think it's becoming that like fiction and historical fiction are merging into one. That it's not just like separate, but it's like together, and then it's more fiction than it's not historical. Because
I love biographies too. I love historical biographies because I feel like I don't think anyone can have a clear enough perspective of their life to really write a decent autobiography. I mean, that's really giving you, I love like when the person's been dead at least 100 or 200 years and you've got like, some real like distance and you can really do some research. I love those too. And I feel like maybe that's where you get a little bit more fact, but historical fiction is just, it's like, okay.
Because
just call
it fiction. I
started
reading a lot of like, I love the American Revolutionary War era. Like I love it.
I do too.
Oh my god, I'm like the biggest fan of that kind of era. People find it so weird because they go, women were so patronized. I go, I don't care. I love
that. Is crazy. That's crazy you're saying that because I love the Constitution. I love like the First Continental Congress, all of that stuff. But I'm fascinated with it. I'm fascinated with it. And I mean, Okay, so for Storm Sisters, which is not historical fiction, but I did a lot of like research, and the third book is set in New York during the war.
Oh, interesting.
And they get separated, and two of them are on the British side, and two of them are on the American side. So I had spent so much time studying this, like the spies of that era, because that's like where espionage started in America, and like all of these amazing techniques that they used and stuff. So yeah, I love that era as well. And I love it because it shaped so much of like the American ideals, and the writing during that time is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a theater major, so everyone just assumes that it's because of Hamilton why I love this kind of era of like,
Oh. Okay, well that's a good reason.
Yeah, and I go, I mean, yes and no, but like I fell in love with it because of my U.S. history teacher in high school. Like, he just taught it so well that I was like, this is awesome. And he was African American, and so when he would talk about, we had a whole like 3 weeks on slaves, and he would like have us act out like how they were packed into the boats and ships.
Yes.
And it was so eye opening because and it meant a lot to him to be able to, discuss his history, his family's history, because he said that his great grandmother was a slave, and so he would talk about the fact that that's my ancestry, and like he would sometimes bring in when slaves secretly would start to learn how to read. He sometimes would bring in like memorabilias and stuff, and I would go to I went to Monticello, which is Thomas Jefferson's house.
Yeah.
And I brought him back, and I brought him back all this like stuff. I was like, Mom, he would love this. It's like it was a documentation on where they would have the slaves and how they would be quartered, and I was just like, he would love this. It was in the gift shop, but it was so interesting, and he like loved it. And now he shows like all his classes. He emailed me the other day, and he was like, I love this thing so much still. I'm like, I'm glad.
That's awesome. I stumbled upon a lot of, because now there's been so much stuff that they've unearthed and found, and like when Portuguese salesmen men and like or sailors and things would find these slave ships and their firsthand accounts of the things that they would see, and then just like the firsthand accounts from the slaves. I mean, they're like those words and those images stuck with me for a really long time. Like, I mean, because that's the thing, because when you immerse yourself in the research, yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, we had to write, at the end of the year, we had to write a paper on anything we wanted in American history, and because I was obsessed with Hamilton at the time, I did write a paper on Alexander Hamilton. But there was a lot of in there that he was, against slavery, and there was an article that he had written a letter to his wife, talking about this, and I put that in my paper, and he actually had no idea that he had written a letter to his wife describing how horrible slavery was, and she became a big advocate after he passed away because of that, because he was so strongly against slavery. And I was just like, it's crazy to me to think that one letter, one documentation, like just the Constitution, it's like a piece of paper, and that's it. Or the Declaration of Independence, it's just a piece of paper, but it changed the whole world. So that's what I think about books. It's paper, and like people write, and like, but it can change. Like any book could change the world if you read it enough.
Well, and I think the world, and I think what the Constitution also shows, it was white privileged men, landowners, and so like I think going with like writing can change the world, words can change the world, especially when you allow different voices,
right?
And and more perspectives. Like that's when we really can change the world and see the world. Yeah.
So do you have any advice for starting out authors or writers?
Yeah, I mean, I get to meet a lot of because I did quite a bit of like international touring for Storm Sisters and stuff, and then also with this, so I get to meet a lot of young writers and aspiring writers. And I think one thing, take the pressure off. Have fun with this. I know that that might sound really condescending, but I think especially when you're young, it's about try to read, watch TV, watch movies, and like try different voices, try different genres, try all these kind of things. I mean, and don't be afraid to suck. That's what I always say, like, don't be afraid to suck, because I think we spend so much time judging ourselves, and that's what I did. I judged myself, and I was afraid. I was so afraid to even attempt to write because I held it so sacredly. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't regret anything, but I say, like, don't be afraid to suck. Just do it. The biggest advice, though, and I think this is just for life in general, not right now because we're restricted, but traveling. I don't think there's been anything greater in my life. I've been really privileged to get to live all over the world and travel everywhere, since I was a very young kid. But I think being able, and it doesn't necessarily mean going to a new country or even a new state, maybe just going to 2 towns over, but understanding that like the world is greater than the box that you're in, stepping out of that box, mm-hmm. and seeing like how different things are, but how even if like everything on the outside is so different, like the language, the landscape, everything, we are so connected as human beings. Like we have so many commonalities. Something my father used to do. My father raised my brother and I as universal citizens, and I bring that into Brown Girl a lot because it's not about being brown or white or American or Indian or whatever, I mean, and like her, I mean, I was also raised with the idea of like, you belong to kind of everything. And one of the things my father did was when we would live in other countries, he would have my brother and I take the city bus to the very end of town and walk our way back home so that we were forced to ask strangers where we were going. This was before cell phones and stuff. So we would have to like make conversations, even if we didn't have the same language. We would have to make conversations with people. And like through that, you learn how kind and open people are. You also learn how connected we are. Yeah. I mean, so I find like traveling is probably my greatest inspiration as a writer, as a human being.
What, if anything, are you currently reading?
Okay, I am currently reading R.D.A.G by Jenny Lee. I got to meet her at North Texas Teen. She's awesome. And I'm loving it because it's like that fun frothy, just like Brown Girl Ghosted. So I love her kick-ass heroine. Just, I feel like her R.D.A.G and my Violet Chattery could hang.
I love that. Is there anything else you are currently working on that you can share a little bit about?
It's funny because I wasn't expecting this time.
Right.
I was, I thought I would be touring, so it's kind of like, oh, okay. But I'm learning how to write a screenplay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I am so visual. The thing is, I love the whole control that a novelist has, but I am so visual. So I'm trying out writing a screenplay. So I'm reading a bunch of screenplays right now. So that's something that I'm working on. And I'm going to be honest, like Violet's talking to me. I mean, this Brown Girl Ghosted is a standalone book. So for anyone out there, like, don't feel like you get a satisfying ending, but I mean, like, don't worry about that. But she is talking to me. So I'm figuring out, like, what else she has to say.
All right. Last question is, where can everyone find you on social media?
Okay, I'm Mintie Das, very easy. Mintie Das on Instagram. And I'm just going to take the book because I want to just talk about this for a sec. Do you see the cover?
Yep.
This gorgeous cover? Mm-hmm. Okay, this is by a Pakistani-based artist named Samia Arif. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct, but it's Samyarif, Arif. And I say, you know what, judge my book by its cover because I just think it's gorgeous. And she's Pakistani, I'm Indian. You see, we can all get along. And I love this cover. So Brown Girl Ghosted drops tomorrow on Amazon, indie bookstores, everywhere. So thanks so much for letting me share it. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And just let me know if there's anything you need, and we'll talk tomorrow.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye.